Hey everybody, it's Jeff from the Great Heights and Barely Controlled Chaos, and let's talk about what happens when the weather changes. So, it's cool out this morning. It's not freezing cold, but it's cold enough that there's snow on the ground. So what do you do with your animals? Well, the answer is coming up. Alright, so the first thing is bedding. As you saw we did in our last video, we put some extra leaves and stuff in here. A lot of people use hay or straw or whatever, but for most animals, they need some bedding. So for us, for the pigs at least, we use leaves. I wouldn't use leaves for goats because they can get, there are mold things that they can get, and they're much more prone to that. The pigs seem to not be, so we go ahead and use the leaves. But making sure that they have someplace warm to sleep at night if they want to, important. Second big thing is food. Making sure that they have enough food to keep those engines inside them burning, to keep them warm. And obviously, you know, feed them regularly, as we do. Next thing, if possible, give them someplace out of the wind. So, while in the summer, I tend to keep this door open to give them some ventilation. In the winter, I keep it closed so that they've got someplace out of the wind. I know, not a great video of just staring at the wind at the door. As I said, bedding is very important. So we have this, it's probably straw, hay, whatever you want to call it, over here for the goats. Feeding them is important. Next most important thing is making sure that they have access to lots of water.
And I think so, the top layer.
You got to make sure that the water's got no ice on the top. You got to make sure that they can get access to it, and you got to make sure that there's a good amount of it, because whether we think about it or not, in the winter they need water just as much as they do in the summer. These guys are hungry this morning. All right, let's go talk about chickens. So we try not to use heat lamps. You'll notice that chickens tend to group together. They will do this at night. They're grouping together over the food at the moment, but they'll do this at night. Well, they'll get together closer. But we also make sure that their nesting boxes have more straw than they do during the summer. A, this keeps the eggs cleaner, but B, it also gives them someplace warm to sit and nest.
There you go, Ducky.
And again, I try not to use heat lamps anywhere on the farm because they're fire hazards. But when it gets super cold, I will put a heat lamp in here. I'll keep it, you know, up here high on the side of this, where it's concrete over here, and I'll make sure that the floor is completely clear underneath it, so they do have someplace warm to go when they need to. But the other thing is that I do keep that back door open during the day, so they can go out and get water, and they can go out and forage, because all of our animals forage. But I keep the front door to the coop. We do have a front door over here. I keep this one closed during the winter because they do need ventilation, but they don't need that much ventilation. So to try to keep them warm, I keep that front door closed. So I haven't talked about our brooder in a while, and that's mostly because it's winter. And while we could probably raise chicks, the likelihood of them surviving is lower in the wintertime. So we stop our operation in the fall, and then we'll start it up again in the spring once we get once the weather starts to warm up again. We'll incubate them inside like we've been doing, bring them out here to the brooder. The brooder does have heat lamps and stuff to keep it warm, or heaters to keep it warm. So like I said, we could do it during the winter, but the likelihood of them surviving is much better if we don't. So we'll go ahead and leave the brooder disabled till spring. As I said, the weather hasn't completely turned here yet. Yes, there's snow on the ground today, but it's kind of a super wet snow, and it's barely in the 30s, so it's going to melt by the end of the day. The more important thing is making sure that you're prepared for winter, making sure that you have things set up. Our greenhouse, unfortunately, is shut down for the winter. It doesn't. We don't have heat, or we don't have water barrels in there to catch the heat during the day, and so we had a hard frost last night, and it kind of got in there and got the plants. But if we'd been thinking about it ahead of time, we would have bought some blue barrels or some black barrels. Black are better, obviously. Catch the heat during the day, keep it warm in there overnight, and that's the best. For small greenhouses, that's usually enough so that you can keep it warm. If we still lived in New York where it got cold, really cold during the night, during the winter, we probably wouldn't be able to get away with that unless we lined pretty much the whole thing with the blue barrels, or with barrels of water. And even then, it probably would be getting pretty nippy in there. But for the most part, during the day, that's still pretty warm in there. All right, so that's it. Just wanted to talk about what do you do when the weather starts to change. Hopefully this video is helpful or informational for you. Oh, one thing I forgot. Hoses. Can you see the hose? Yeah. Make sure your hoses are drained. Otherwise they're going to crack. I mean, everybody knows that. But it's something, especially because we have to get water all the time, because you have to get water all the time. We're using our hoses all winter long. So make sure you're draining them properly so that they don't end up splitting when they fill up with ice. Alright, so anyway, that was it. Hopefully you found, like I said, hopefully you found this informational. Yes, hopefully you found this informational, and we'll talk to you next time.